supposedly there was a phone call between Soule, Dybala, and Echeverrie to get him to come over. How these journalists know that or come up with this stuff is so funny. Like, how could you say that? You don't know that, what happened in their personal lives. And I don't think Soule or Dybala are leaking stuff to the press. Guys, what's going on? It's been a busy day in the transfer mercato. Gasperini had an interview we're going to go over. I want to talk a little bit about Lens first. Roma finished, I think it was 2-0. Mancini, off of a free kick, puts that one into the back of the net, right? I'm not getting this confused with the previous match to this. Anyway, the really one thing I want to stress is that the performance from Soule has been outstanding. The goal that he scored in this match was incredible. The way that he took it, the top of the 18, dribbled past 1-2 defenders, just completely saw it. Like, he felt that, right? And he let it go off of his foot, upper 90, opposite corner. Beautiful shot. Man, is this kid putting Dybala on the back burner right now? I don't know how. I do know, like, one idea that Gasperini is going to play with Dybala a little bit more withdrawn or on the left, perhaps tucked in, inverted. I tell you what, it's a problem. Soule is becoming a top-tier player, if I dare say an elite-level talent. It's all happening very quickly. Is he even, at this point, going to be at Roma next year? Is he becoming, like, too big for the club? Like, is he going to be on a top 3, top 4 team? I don't know. Some of these performances so far, if they're a preview of what we're going to see this season, this is a very special player for Roma right now. What a piece of business as we go last year, right? Thinking about how Juventus sold him, and they bring in Nicolas Gonzalez, who may or may not even stay at Juventus at this point. Guess we'll be watching him and talking more about him. We've got Aston Villa coming up, as well as Everton, another team owned like with Cannes in France, along with the Friedkins, right? And part of this group that they have with these different football teams in their collective, if you want to call it that now. Zolkowski, interesting player here. Before we hit that, I want to talk about Pierotti. Is I think, a 25-year-old, 24-year-old right-wing attacking mid who plays for Lecce. Argentinian, Italian background. He was brought over last season. Was somebody who was really important to the tactical approach that they had, which was high press, disciplined, very much like what you see out of Gasperini. Not so in much how they play, but more so the approach, because Gasperini's tactics are totally his own. They don't really mirror or are similar to anybody else's. Of course, as time goes on, we'll be talking about that until we're all exhausted about hearing about it. But that's the kind of stuff like I love, like the little intricacies of overloads and diamonds and where do the center backs go? Do they push up? What happens to the defensive midfielders? And the counterbalance between two of those. And one thing I want to point out, I think that a lot of Roma fans feel, is that there is a center midfielder, whether it's defensive and I'll say attacking, that's still missing as we look at this roster. For me, it's like a Matt O'Reilly. Some people will say it's a regista. It's somebody more withdrawn who could slow the tempo down in these matches, perhaps because El Ainaoui and Kone are a little too similar to one another. Is that guy Cristante? I don't know. You can kill the man. You can't kill the legend of Brian Cristante in a Roma shirt. It's unbelievable how he just continues to play for this club. I don't know. Good luck, right? I don't know. It's just unbelievable. Anyway, I want to take a look at some of the opinions going on with this new player who was linked today, Zolkowski, out of Poland, Polish international. He has represented Poland at 3 levels, I think including U20 is the oldest. He's 20 years old right now, 6'4", and he will replace Kumbula, who seems to be making definitely his way out of Rome. I shouldn't say seems to be. He is making his way out of Rome. I don't expect him to survive the week, but Zolkowski. And if we look at some of the you could look at my friend Marco De Marinis on Twitter. He posted a video, or you could even pull this one up on Enzo Pure Romanista, his Twitter. He says, reminds him a lot of Huijsen. So I did get a good comment, thinking quickly, that I wanted to discuss from somebody who is Polish, and he says, Ander, SPQR, says that he's definitely not Huijsen. Plays with his head very well, is tenacious, combative, has some problems in duels. He goes at once, has problems introducing the ball. I think he means maybe like settling it. Has a strong character and is aware of his faults, but is developing quickly. So these are good things to read. It's not that Roma can buy the Huijsens anymore. They're not going to buy a $40, $50 million center back. They're going to go after opportunities like Gilardi, who is probably undervalued. Or this kid, who seems like he's got a future. 6'4", along with Gilardi and Mancini. These are some tall center backs that are in Rome at this point. Also like this one, Football Nostalgico. I forgot for a minute of these boots, these Maximuses. I think Maximus 14s they are on the bottom left. Those are beautiful. I don't tell you something personal. I don't regret much in life. If there's anything I regret, it's how I treated people. If I ever took advantage or if I was ever mean to anybody, and like my 20s and my teenage years more so. The only other things I regret are not buying those Nike Totti boots in gold and black, and the Pirlo ones which came in a Merlot wine box. Those were so unique. I remember at the time I was like, no, $200. I can't be spending that on boots. And now they're like $1,500 on eBay. Silly. Ridiculous. What do you think of this thought here? This kid, Clevin Band, wrote, this team finishes top 4 with ease, realistically speaking. There's one player who does not belong there, and that's Echeverrie. I suppose we should talk a little bit more about him. But you look over, Indica, Mancini, Gilardi, Svilar, Angelino, Kone, Alanawi, Wesley, who I love, Soule, Dovbyk, Echeverrie. Oh, I don't think it's Dovbyk. I don't think he's going to be the guy to lead Roma this year. We could leave a comment right now what you think about that. Echeverrie, does he come? Does he not? Manchester City, if he does go, are opening maybe just to the idea that if Echeverrie is allowed to join Roma, that Roma would have to pay a heavy loan fee. Roma want an option. Manchester City don't want him to go to Roma at all, I don't think. They want him to go to Girona, which is also under their umbrella, along with Palermo, actually. I'm surprised Palermo's not in Serie A already, but they will be next year under Filippo Inzaghi. So watch that space. But does he come? I don't know. For me, it's like 50-50. I wouldn't say it's guaranteed, but the player wants to come. We see that there's this heavy Argentinian influence, especially with how talented these players are. Like, imagine having this prodigy out on the left, another prodigy out on the right, and Dybala at the center of it. That would be ridiculous. The type of football that those three could produce, even with a striker or just with the three of them, would be profound. Profound. It's like stuff you dream of that. Anyway, there was a big interview today for Gasperini. I'm going to go into that now. I'm not going to go over every comment. I'm going to abbreviate some of them, like with Dybala. He says he's just monitoring him. Hope he gets back. Dybala had surgery, by the way. I think early, maybe like May or early June. He says they're in the final stages of preparation. They're there at somewhere in England, St. George's Field right now. I don't know where that is. Southern England, perhaps. He says it's not just the fact that Roma are missing players, but it's just that some positions need to be filled. And, of course, one of those is left wing. Have to imagine another one of those is another center midfielder. Says teams, they spend huge sums on attackers. The offensive department is the most sought after and most expensive, and teams with strong attacking players are more competitive. So kind of obvious comments here from Gasperini. And his comment here on Dovbyk, he says we're trying to improve some weaknesses like his ability to be in the game. That's not really what you want your coach to say. You shouldn't be too early or late. It's like in music, if you're out of time, it's a problem. What's missing from your Roma? He says, I'm happy with all the players who have been commendable. It's a team that works hard, has team spirit, and a sense of belonging. You can say a lot of things, but that's not. There's a lack of commitment and attachment to Roma. Ranieri said something very similar in the last few matches in this press conference. Maybe it was when Roma lost. I forget. Was that against Atalanta? I think it was. He says, Wesley, this is a player Roma were after. I knew him well because he had practically sealed the deal with Atalanta. Then it fell through at the last minute. Wasn't a specific request of mine, but a profile that the club was pursuing for that position. He says he's a player born in 2003, plays for the Brazilian national team, and has plenty of room for improvement. And playing at Flamengo, of course, means you already have a lot of experience. But if he was complete, he would have cost a different sum. Yeah. He says he's not going to really talk about Echeverrie. He doesn't like to talk about players in particular. Then I like this question. What qualities are you looking for in an attacking midfielder? He says, we already have a nearly complete squad, although we are a bit limited in some positions. We need to bring in a couple more players because not everyone will be able to play 50 games. This is about completing the squad. As for strengthening the team, the club is looking for players who can give us an extra something. Have you already decided on the captain's armband? He says there's no problem. I've always given the armband to the player with the most appearances. There's no other hierarchy. I don't know off the top of my head. Does he mean appearances total? Does he mean players who are going to be able to play the most? I'm not sure, because that's not Pellegrini at the moment. He or Mancini have the most appearances, which makes sense right now because Mancini is the vice captain. But does he mean going forward? Because if Pellegrini is going to remain on the injury list, I mean, you can't have a sitting captain. It doesn't make any sense. All right, Gilardi says, yeah, he fits the profile of what Roma is looking for, and the reason I was called, like that he fits what Roma were looking for. The owners have a need to work and build with a view to the future, using young players with the prospect of creating a squad that can, over time, become increasingly stronger. And we see that right now. Ferguson, Wesley, El Ainaoui, Gilardi, these are young players. They're like, who's the oldest of them? El Ainaoui, what's he, 23 years old? I'm going to double check that. He is 24. One thing I noticed about him when he was playing against Lens, his former team, is how fast El Ainaoui is. And that's something which is going to be so important to Gasp, filling in those spaces between the defensive midfield and the center backs. Recovery, man-to-man. Have you seen the players smile these days? He says, I hope so. I found a great group, guys who want to have a great season. So, all right. It's looking good. I mean, I got a positive vibe. We got 5 wins out of 5. Of course, in the first couple rounds, you play teams which are like Testaccio, just local in Rome, and the competition gets increasingly harder as time goes on. Aston Villa is going to be the biggest test. Everton's a decent team too. You know, they're no slouch. So we'll see how this goes, guys. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think, as always, and I'll be back soon.